and thank you for joining me. In today's update, we are going to examine the upcoming weather pattern, which is shaping up to be one of the most promising for early to mid-December that I have seen in all my 7 or 8 years of producing these videos. It truly appears that we are in for a very cold period with repeated Arctic blasts and multiple opportunities for snowfall. We currently have a major snowstorm moving across the Midwest, the Plains, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley. We will also be looking at a system for the East Coast in just a few days, and now the forecast models are beginning to suggest even more activity is on the way. It is shaping up to be an exceptionally active pattern ahead of us. So let us dive right into the details, beginning with the current conditions. Very quickly, I want to show you this massive snow system that is currently in progress. Look at just how many states are being significantly impacted by this storm. As we zoom in here, we can see parts of Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, where Ohio State and Michigan are playing their game at noon today. The game will likely be over by the time you are watching this. It is remarkable to see Indiana, Ohio, and even northern Kentucky experiencing impacts from this far-reaching system. The primary area of heavy snowfall is concentrated right in this region for these communities. Exceptionally heavy snow is already accumulating, making for a very serious situation. Now, let's move on to the model guidance, beginning with the European model. We can see this system moving through. I have been mentioning in our online weather discussion community, which you can find a link for in the description and the pinned comment below. And we would love to have you join us, that if this were an evening game, the situation would be quite different. This is 7 o'clock on Saturday evening right there in the town of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We would be seeing more moderate to heavy snowfall moving in, the field would likely be covered in snow, and visibility would be very low. So we did miss what could have been a truly memorable winter weather game, although I do expect some flakes to be flying throughout the game, which will be wonderful to see. However, enough about that, as this is a weather channel, not a sports channel. I must constantly remind myself of that. By tomorrow, we see that low-pressure system does move up into Canada. Some snowfall will be left over for the Great Lakes, and we do see some additional snow starting in the interior northeast, which will be mostly light to moderate as the system passes through. By the time we reach Monday, the first of the month, that system moves out, but we can already see our second snowstorm beginning to form. Here we have a northern piece of energy and a southern piece of energy where the two jet streams are combining. This is truly going to come together to create an interesting situation for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So let's watch this unfold. That is Monday the 1st. As we head into the morning of the 2nd, we see a great deal of that snowfall over the Midwest. It will move through the Ohio Valley and into parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, where it is really going to intensify by the time we reach that evening. This is 7 o'clock in the evening on Tuesday. We see moderate to heavy snowfall for Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey. New York City is right on the edge of this, as are coastal Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Boston. Southeastern Massachusetts is right there in a zone where it could be snow rain or a mix of both. If the storm tracks any farther south, or we see colder trends, that will become a significant snow event for them. If we see any trends to the north, however, it will likely be more of a rain event. So the forecast for these areas is still uncertain, and we will be watching it very closely. But heavy snowfall is expected for southern New England, southern New York, northern New Jersey, and much of Pennsylvania, and then back into Ohio and West Virginia by this point. As we reach a little later in the evening, we see this low-pressure system is very strong. At a pressure of 985 millibars, this is at 1 o'clock in the morning on December 3rd, which will be a Wednesday. This is a very strong coastal storm, or nor'easter, positioned just offshore. We have heavy snowfall from southern New York into southern New England, and then into parts of southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and coastal Maine, where the snow is likely to accumulate significantly. I believe this southern New England and southern New York area is the place to watch for the highest snowfall totals from this event. As we continue, this storm comes to an end by the time we reach later in the morning on Wednesday the 3rd. Once it is all said and done, we are left with very cold air after that storm moves through, with some lake effect snowfall occurring. We then get a quick moving clipper system here, as you can see, around Thursday the 4th, that moves into the northern plains and upper Midwest. This brings some light to moderate snowfall to the Midwest Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast around the 5th and 6th of the month. At this same exact time, we have a great deal of northern energy diving southward and a perfectly positioned jet stream that would typically set up the mid-Atlantic and Northeast for a snow event. However, this southern stream is just too far to the south on this particular model run. This is about 6 or 7 days away, so in theory, this could be a time frame to watch around the 5th, 6th, and 7th of the month. We are definitely watching that period for perhaps another interesting situation for some of these areas. We can see it does not fully come together on this model run, but we do get the low-pressure system to develop. It is just too far to the south. Then we get another storm system. It will affect parts of the Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic around the 7th, 8th, and 9th as more Arctic air moves in. Then we get this interesting setup once again. We see an active northern jet stream moving through a bit farther to the south this time. The southern jet stream wants to merge with it. We already have a strong low-pressure system there for the Gulf states, and as you can see on this model run for the 9th. Here, we get a potential winter storm farther south. Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Virginia are all in play. We see a pressure of 998 millibars there off the coast of South Carolina. This is a true nor'easter, and it appears to want to track right up the coast. This would be an opportunity for these areas, but this is far out, about 11 days from now, so please take this with a grain of salt. This forecast is certainly subject to change, to say the least. As we head towards Wednesday, we see this system start to pull up the coast, bringing some of the upper, southeast, and lower mid-Atlantic some heavier snowfall, but then it does not quite make it up to the northeast. We continue to see very, very cold air. And what is interesting is that while we see this one here, we also have another clipper system. It is moving through at the same time up here in the upper Midwest with some light to moderate snowfall. That system does make its way through the Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast as well. Then we get another clipper system here for the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. And this particular one, as you can see, it moves through right to this point. The jet stream, however, is typically diving a little bit farther south than that by the time it has arrived here. We also have this piece of southern energy that looks primed to take a track up the eastern states. Again, there is plenty of cold air in place, and this could put these areas on high alert once more. So that amounts to roughly 7, 8, or 9 opportunities. 4 snow systems here over the next 15 days. It is an incredibly active pattern, so let us see where the American GFS model agrees. We obviously have our current snow system. We also have the East Coast one as well. This model shows the rain snow line a little farther northward. We can see New York City would likely not be in the mix for snow. They are definitely in the rain, as are Providence, Boston, and Philadelphia. It is even more clear on this model. This shows a track farther northward, bringing snow mainly to the interior Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So there is still some disagreement among the models, and that storm moves out. We then see some frequent clipper systems moving through. There is another East Coast threat here around the 6th or 7th of the month. Again, this is the same time frame that I mentioned earlier, to watch on the European model. So we do see some snowfall appearing here within the 10-day range, so this is not necessarily in the long range. We definitely have some time. And that system does move up into the northeast. Then we get this kind of setup where if there were Arctic air moving into the east, you would have this ample amount of energy out here. But instead, we end up with the northern jet moving through with a weaker low-pressure system here. Our southern jet is separated, and we have a weaker low down here as well, so the energy is all rather separated on the GFS model run around this time frame. We do get another threat for the East Coast and the Ohio Valley area here around the 8th, 9th, and 10th. This is a similar storm signal to what the European model shows. Then we get more of a Midwest and Great Lakes cutter storm there around the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Finally, the GFS model brings us into a warmer pattern. You might recall that over the last few model runs, the GFS model originally said, hey, around the 8th, we are going to move to a warmer pattern. Then yesterday, it pushed that back to the 10th when it thought we would see a warmer pattern. Now it is showing the change happening after the 12th or 13th. So it keeps pushing that change back multiple days with every single new model run. This does not lend a lot of confidence right now in some sort of a flip to warmer temperatures. Of course it could happen, but when we see the model kicking the can further and further down the road like that, it is typically a sign that it is having trouble resolving the pattern. Now looking at the total precipitation on the European model, you would never believe we are in a La Nina year. You have this very, very active southern jet stream moving through and off the east coast. This looks very much like an El Nino pattern, but you also have that Arctic air that you typically see in more of a weak La Nina or a neutral pattern popping up. I wanted to make the argument today that based on everything I have seen, and now what we know is upcoming, I feel that the conditions we are seeing are much more like a neutral pattern compared to a La Nina. That is just my observation so far. Obviously, there is a great deal of winter, all of winter ahead of us. Meteorological winter starts on December 1st in just 2 days. So there is plenty of time for things to change a bit, but for now, what we are seeing looks much more like neutral conditions. Looking at the anomalies again, you have this active track for clipper systems moving through here, and then you have the southern jet with the nor'easters sometimes in combination. I have to point out that we have drawn comparisons all year long to 2013, to 2014, and 2014 to 2015. Those are 2 of the strongest historical comparisons for this winter. Those years featured frequent clipper systems and frequent nor'easters. Sometimes the 2 types of storms would combine where we would see a clipper system move eastward and then redevelop off the east coast. We call that a Miller B nor'easter, where it moves halfway across the country and then strengthens as it moves up the east coast. Regardless, it is a very interesting comparison we are seeing here. The total snowfall on the European model will certainly feature a significant amount for the plains of the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley due not only to our current snow system, but also to frequent clippers. Then we expect substantial snowfall from the upcoming 2nd and 3rd systems for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. We also see another system that extends this area of snowfall into more of the southern Mid-Atlantic as well. It is a very, very active pattern. In the GFS model, it does not include that southern nor'easter, but it does have numerous systems moving through the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley. We do see 1 or 2 coastal systems for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast in this forecast as well. So there is fairly good agreement. Regarding the temperatures, I will say the European model is the colder of the 2. We are currently under the 1st Arctic blast. The 2nd Arctic blast is moving in for the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th of the month, and then we get our 3rd Arctic blast as well as our 4th by the 7th, then our 5th, which looks more significant, is due for the 7th, 8th, and 9th. After that, it appears we will be getting our 5th or 6th one around the 13th and 14th. So it is very similar to yesterday's forecast frequent Arctic blasts and frequent potential snow systems. That combination can be quite intense. And again, I have never seen this for the first half of December. In all the winters I have been forecasting, I have seen active late Decembers, and of course into the January timeframe last year is a great example, but for early December it has been a very long time. A very long time indeed. The GFS model with the cold air shows Arctic blast number 1, a second one moves in, the third is very intense, the fourth is less intense as is the fifth and the sixth. These later ones are more like typical cool downs, then we do see a shift to a warmer pattern. As you can see for the 13th, 14th, and 15th, which is approximately 13 or 14 days from now. Confidence is not especially high in a pattern change that far out, although it is a signal worth watching. We will certainly monitor that for you. The ensemble models for the 4th through the 14th on the European ensemble model obviously show warmth in the west and a cold pattern in the east. It is a very consistent signal through and through. This is what this model is forecasting for the 4th through the 14th. Looking at the GFS ensemble model, it does show the warmth out west very similarly. It also shows some Arctic air working its way into the east, but it appears less intense and less frequent throughout that entire time period. There is a little bit more of a southeast ridge. It is very minor, but there are obviously some warmer temperatures occurring on this model for the deep southeast. So there are small disagreements, but the overall premise of everything is quite similar on both of these models. It is a remarkable pattern. With all of that being said, please be sure to subscribe. We upload these forecasts every single day. You can even select the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did find it helpful.